Turn your Bibles to Matthew chapter 2, if you would. I'll be reading from there in just a few moments. You know, it's interesting because one of the areas of time that is the most depressing to a lot of people will be from now through the end of January. Now, some people say it's because all the credit card bills come back in January too. So that we can celebrate Christmas all year round because we make the monthly payments, right, Mom? I don't know. But it is, it's a time that we celebrate a lot, but it's also a time that things don't go very well. I'll bet you every one of us have had times at Christmas where we were disappointed. Yes, it didn't work out the way we thought. We had all these expectations of everything that was going to happen, and it just didn't come that way. And we began to wonder why. You know, with all the hype, you know, and all the expectations that we are supposed to experience, that sometimes we don't. And sometimes we get caught up in different things. And it just doesn't work out the way that we had planned for it to work out. Well, my granddaughter, Madison, who either I have a soft heart or soft head for it, I don't know, all my grandchildren, but she mentioned the other day that we needed to do something as an activity. You know, she uses words like activity and project. I have no idea what she's talking about. So I said, well, what do you want to do? Something that we can do together. And she said, well, Mommy doesn't like doing gingerbread houses. And I've never done one. And this year will be the last time. But anyway, so we go out and we find this one that she thinks is great. So we take it back to the house. The only good thing about it is, how many of you ever put one together and decorated one? Oh, you haven't lived. Yeah. I know I'm getting you all for Christmas. You have? You ate it? I'll send you mine. I don't know the other be, but anyway. So the only good thing about it is that you that have done it, you put it together with what? Icing. And you can eat what's left over. That's the only good thing about it. Okay? So anyway, we get it out and we get it all put together and we start, and the picture on the front of it, doesn't that look really, really neat? It's beautiful, isn't it? It's beautiful. Here's a picture of what we got. What? You what?
You got hurt.
No, this is how it came. That's the way it is. You don't cook the gingerbread, it's already done. So it's left without saying that this really doesn't quite reflect that. Anyway, I didn't mean for this to be a discussion. Okay. No, we still got frosting. I'm going to get a cupcake and put it on that and eat it. But anyway, isn't Christmas sometimes like that? We're expecting this and we get this. It just happens, okay? Things happen that we just don't criticize it, Gabe.
Look at the green one. The green little throat thing.
Yeah, the wind came up. I know. We'll discuss it later. Whose kid is this?
All my kids.
Anyway, that's the way that Christmas works out some way. It just doesn't come out the way that we would like for it to. But the Christmas that we're going to talk about today came out exactly the way God desired for it to be. In the midst of all us humans, and in the midst of all our sinfulness and our wickedness, He was able to work through people to accomplish His first Christmas that we celebrate this time of the year. So we want to look at how this all happened here, and we're going to look at the wise men and the Magi, and just to understand the whole thing. These guys probably showed up about 2 years after Jesus was born. They're not at the nativity scene. There's no way that they were there. Matthew will share that with us in a roundabout way. Where was Jesus born at? Bethlehem, in a stable or something, laid in a manger. When we read here in Matthew 2, we're going to see that they found Mary and the child, a toddler, in the house. So time has gone by here. Later on in this passage, we're not going to look at it today, but Herod will decide that he's going to kill all the male children 2 years and under. That's how he comes to this understanding. So this is the time that has passed here. But what these men do is so unusual. It's so unusual. You know, there was a young boy that was at a ball one time looking at a manger scene. And he just stood there and stared for the longest time. And finally Mom came up and said, "What are you thinking about?" He said, "I'm trying to figure out, where does God fit into all this?" So when we celebrate Christmas, that's the question. One of the questions I'm going to ask you. How does God fit into your Christmas? What part does he have in this? I don't care what the world says. That if you ask someone what Christmas is about, their answer is what? The birth of Jesus Christ. Okay? That's what this is about. Was he born December the 25th? Don't know. You know, it was interesting because I won't go into names, of course, but these people came to my house one day and wanted to talk to me about their theories, which were false, of course. And one of the things that they shared with me is that you don't know that Jesus was born December 25th. I said, "You're correct, and you don't know that he wasn't." Okay? Because there's no way, it's like 300 AD, folks, when it's decided that Christmas will be celebrated on December 25th. But the one thing that I do know, the one thing that you know is what? He was born. That's all that matters. He was born, he lived, he is a historical figure. God took up time and space to live among us, to give us a way that we might come to heaven. So what we're going to do, we're going to look here in Matthew chapter 2, read verse 11 or 12 verses, and we're going to look at the visit of these magi. Read with me if you would. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of law, he asked them where the Christ was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will be the shepherd of my people, Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and make a careful search for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." After they heard of the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen in the east went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold and incense and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. So let's look at these guys. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the vision. We're going to throw this big birthday party. Okay? What do we need to think about? What do we need to take care of? Party? Okay, guest list? Well, she's organized. What else? What? Now we know where Marge is coming from. You hear what she said? Food. Won't have one in mind. I don't care about the guest list. We need to have food in, right? Okay? Potato soup. There you go. Anybody else? Anything?
Time and place.
What?
Time and place.
Time and place. Okay? So all this goes together, and what is happening here is that these magi indirectly get invited to this birthday party. I say indirectly because you see the passage that is the quote of the prophet Micah. Okay? That was written 750 years before this event. So they were invited on down the line. Now, how did they know all of this? How did they know about this Messiah? If we'll go back in history, there was a guy that was taken captive in Babylon. His name was Daniel. And even though we see a lot about Daniel's life, the lion's den, the three and the first and all that, the back part of the book of Daniel has a lot of prophecies in it. And it talks about the coming of the Messiah. So it was passed on to these men that are going to come here, that there's going to be this big party that's going on, and who's invited? Everybody is invited. Okay? But we do see the response of these people. What was Herod's response? Pardon me? That's what he told them.
Yeah.
But that's not what he wanted. Okay? Because what's the question the Magi asked Herod when they get there? Where is he that is born king of the Jews? See, Herod, right now, is king. But he's not a true Israelite. He's a half-breed. And he knows that whoever is born king of the Jews is a threat to him. And I would suggest to you that most of the commotion that you see about Christmas now is a threat that people have because of Jesus, because of who this baby is. Because he claims to be king. He claims to be the one that will rule over the house of David. This has always been the prophecy. And then when Herod hears this, Herod, what does it say about him? He was troubled. He's threatened. And then it says all Jerusalem too. And the reason that's in there is because he was a madman, Herod was. If you want to read the history of Herod, he killed several of his family members because he was afraid they were going to take over his throne. So when this happens, not only is he troubled by it, Jerusalem is thinking, what's this insane man going to do now? Because of the emotional uproar that he's in. Okay? So then we see the Jewish leaders. What was their response? Let me put it this way. Do you read anywhere where these Jewish leaders went to Bethlehem to see the fulfillment of prophecy? There you go. Not that we're aware of it. You need to go. How far is Bethlehem from Jerusalem? 6, 7, 8 miles. How far do these wise men come? These magi come? A little over 1,000 miles. On camelback. Can you imagine that? They didn't even go. You know who they are? You know who they represent? The church people. That they're not excited about this Messiah. They're not excited at all. They know the Bible very well. They know all there is to know about this, but there is no response. It's kind of a, and we're done with it. Done. But these magi come, they come asking the right question. We think, well, they must be late in time, but I think they're right on time. Here's what Joe thinks. I think that in the birth of Jesus, the shepherds are there, representing the Jewish people. If you'll see the proclamation in Luke 2 of the angel, that will be for all the people, Israel. That's who he came for in the beginning, until they rejected him. That's who he came for. Who are the Magi? The Gentiles. And he is not just king of the Jews, he is king of all people. He is Lord of all people. So these stories are put together here for that very thing, to show who Jesus really is. It's 750 years since this prophecy of Micah has been made. And now here they come. Here they come because they did what? How did they explain to Herod why they were there? We saw his star. Now, there's been a lot of attempts to explain that star. Okay? That these planets lined up, and whatever, we can get into that because nobody really knows. What we do know is that the Magi saw it, and it led them to where they're at. Now, was it just a normal star? Or it can't be. It can't be. Because it will tell you that that star led the Magi to where the child was and stopped over his house. And Bethlehem is south of Jerusalem. So it can't be just a normal star. Something happened, but what it is we don't know. We probably never will know for sure, but they came. It got the attention of these wise men. You see, these men are very, very intelligent, educated people, and they saw that. And it got their attention, and now they come probably about 1,000 miles from what we would call Iraq today to visit this child. For how long? Don't know. Don't know. We don't know that they stayed or they left. But look at their faith. These are Gentiles. These are people that are not part of Israel. These are people that have never, well, they wouldn't be allowed in the temple. They're unclean people. And look at their faith. And Herod is upset about it. And that's a strange thing, folks, because you see, genuine faith makes phony faith feel uncomfortable. You find someone that has true faith, that is putting feet to their faith, is what I call it, that they're obeying God. It makes those people that have a shallow faith feel very, very uncomfortable. It's like the story of the little boy that is in church, and he's standing up on the ledge, and there's an angel standing with him. And they're watching the worship service go on in church. And people are moving their mouths, and the pianist is playing the piano, but there's no sound. And he can't understand it. And he finally turns to the angel, what's going on? He said, they are doing their regular form of worship. And the silence, that's what God hears when faith is not present. And we can have some of those beautiful voices, we can have the greatest sermon, you know that's not going to happen, don't you? You just say yes to it. It's not like Don would say. Okay? But what does God hear? See, if there is no faith, nothing happens. We can come and sit here and go through 1,000 worship services, but if there is no faith, God hears nothing. It's silent, and He is not pleased. He can't bless us in that kind of situation. So here these men show up, and the question is, who are they? Now, how many are there? I know some of us will say 3. We have no idea. I doubt 3 guys by themselves came 1,000 miles. There's going to be this whole entourage of people with them. Because these are the college professors extraordinaire. These are the intelligent, wise men that have been trained in medicine and astrology and astronomy and literature and history. These are the great men of Persia that are spoken of, actually, back in the time of Daniel. Okay? So who are they? What do we know about them? We only really know one thing about them. They came from the east. Okay? But they're magi. Now, we associate magi with the word magic. What if I told you it's from magnificent? Okay, these guys are way up. Isn't that interesting? That the 2 parts of the young life of Jesus, one of them is the people that are on the lowest standard socially, the shepherds, and the others on the highest possible standard, the Magi. He is Lord and King of all people, of all things. And that is what the message is to us, that He is here because of that. They journey to find some answers. They were motivated to make this 1,000-mile trip over a lot of desert. Where they came from, probably today, is Iraq. That's probably where they came from. When you look on the map, you see the distance between Iraq and Jerusalem. So look, about 1,000 miles. Okay? And they can't jump in their car, or they can't fly their plane. No one ever, Danny, he hasn't gone for quite a while, but he had to go to Saudi Arabia a couple times for his job. I can't believe flying that distance. Okay? I forget what he said, 2,400, 2,500 miles of flight. Can you imagine that in a plane? What about on camelback? But this is not some easy trip, but something has motivated these men to travel all this way for the purpose of finding He that is born King of the Jews. They traveled a long way, had a short visit, but it changed their lives. Okay? Here again, it's not quantity of time that you spend with God, it's the quality of that time that you spend with God. And these men came for that very reason. They put commitment to their conviction. As I said, they put feet to their faith. That these strange men from far away come, and what do when they find this baby? Here's my 6 Okay, they give him treasures. Before they ever did that, they worshiped Him. Okay? I think it's important. There's a little more in that verse. It says then. They worshiped them, then they opened their treasures. Okay? That once, can you imagine you taking the top college professors in our country and watch them bow down before a baby and acknowledge this baby is superior to them? I don't know how many would do that. See, there's two words in the Bible for worship. One means to serve. It's found in Romans 12. I don't know how many of you are going to church that the whole service is out in a bulletin. It's called liturgy. That's one word for worship, is to serve. The other one means to bow down and kiss the hand of someone who is superior to you. And that's the word here. Okay? That these men, as learned as they were, bowed down, showed humility, and worshipped who? This baby. This baby that most people paid no attention to when he was born. But here they are. Here they are because they have come for this party. They made this long, long journey. And that brings us to the visit. A strange sight. They came to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. They came to celebrate the birth of the King of the Jews, of the Son of God. That somehow God revealed to them who this was that they are standing before, kneeling before. And their hearts led them to rejoice. And they worshiped Him. And then as they worshiped Him, it is their worship of God that led them to open up their treasures to Him. Okay? I didn't put it on the screen. I found this silly little drawing. I say silly, but it was so small. The character was so small. But there was a little person standing there with his heart in his hand. And there was a drawing of Jesus over here. And the guy that's got his heart in his hand, he says, Jesus, this is all that I have for you. And Jesus said, that's all I've ever wanted. He wants our hearts first. Okay? After that, we use our gifts. But if we never give our hearts to Him, I don't care what else you can offer Him. It's not good enough. Okay? They worshiped Him. They bowed before Him. They paid their homage to Him. And then they opened up their treasures. They offered their gifts. These gifts that they bring are very expensive. They're very, very expensive. They're very rare. They're somewhat a little bit confusing. The one with myrrh, we'll talk about that in a moment. But they're also practical. Okay? That what they gave to Jesus was practical. Because the time is going to come. First of all, tell me, what did they give? Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. We'll say it again. Oh, I thought you said something, myrrh or something. Okay. She's trying to sing up here. It sounds a little strange to give a baby embalming fluid. Okay. Myrrh had more uses than that, but that basically what it was. But they are practical because after all this scene with the wise men of the Magi, Herod's going to decide to do what? Kill this baby. And God shows Joseph in a dream to do what? Take off for Egypt. How's he going to pay for that? Well, goodness, we have some gold, and we have some frankincense, and we have some myrrh here. We're going to be very, very practical. You know, Danny's youngest boy, Noah, is going to be 5 in February, but we've asked him what he wanted for Christmas. And he'd have to know, Noah's kind of in his own world. It's really fun. It's really neat to watch it. But anyway, they ask him, and he says he wants curry coffee. It's curry coffee. Now he's 5 years old. Well, he's 4 still. He's almost 5. What in the world would a 5-year-old boy want with this? And I do know. See, he found this out. His particular brand, he can put that packet of hot chocolate in and make his own hot chocolate bar. So he wants his coffee maker. I asked him, you want it in your own room? Or what? Okay? Practical. Practical. Okay? So these gifts that these wise men give are practical too. That they're going to be used in a great way. we see that the three gifts are gold and frankincense and myrrh. The gold is given to him to signify what? That he is king. Okay. The frankincense, what would that symbolize? That he is priest. Okay. In fact, have you ever seen the movie Centennial? The movie? It's not biblical, but it's really kind of neat to see, because when one of the wise men come up here, that's what they say. Here is the gold to show that you are King of Kings. Here is the frankincense to show that you are priest of all priests. Right? And myrrh, that was symbolic of what? Sacrifice. There was one purpose this baby is born. And what's that? To die. And somehow these men know this. Somehow, as they come to visit, that they understand who this baby really, really is. And the gifts of the Magi express the essence of the true identity of Jesus. That he is King of Kings. He is Lord of Lords. He is the high priest. That in the Old Testament I had the priest go between me and God. Not anymore. Not anymore. Jesus is the high priest. No man can be mediator between God and me, because we're all sinful. And these guys knew that. Isn't that interesting? That these prophets 8 miles away, 8 miles away, aren't interested at all. That these men travel 1,000 miles because they understand. You know, that's one of the interesting things. I've preached for a few years here. And it's one of the things that's interesting to me, that there are times you find people outside the church that have more faith than people in the church. It's interesting. That they believe, that they trust. Okay? And they're doing something with their faith. See, one of the great concerns that I have about Christmas, and I've talked to my boys about this at different times too, I think we're too comfortable with this. I think this has become too commonplace. That we have got caught up in the materialistic things of the world, and we think that we got to buy this expensive toy. We got to buy all the expensive stuff to show that we love them. Or if not, we fail. And I have a theological term to define that. You know what that is? Gobbledygook. I can remember my boys growing up. You buy these toys, they played with the box. Or they played with the tape dispenser. Or the favorite one, as it became a sword, was the inside gold of the paper, wrapping paper. Somehow, I told the boys already, I think next year for Christmas, I'm going to make a donation to a charity in their names. And I'm not buying any gifts for anybody. First of all, my grandchildren, there's nothing in the world that they need. They have that and most of what they want. Okay? So why can't we as a church stop and rethink? As Christians, to stop and rethink. Let's not spend that money on what this is about. Sure, we love our children. Okay? I always buy them toys that I can play with. Serves two purposes. But these magi come to worship him, who he really is. And faith sometimes is determined by what I'm willing to give Jesus. Oh, I have faith in him, but don't expect an extra dollar out of me. Don't expect another 15 minutes out of me. Don't expect me to walk across the street. I believe in you. You think God's a fool? He is Lord of Lords. He's King of Kings. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. You know what God wants from you? You know it's Jesus' birthday, isn't it? You know what? He wants your best. And how can we justify when we give less than that? That we depend upon him for our salvation. We have put our love and trust for him. That the presence of Jesus caused these men to bow down on their knees. Caused these men to humble themselves and to worship him and give him the best that they had. And that's what he wants. This is a true story. There was a situation with a family that they decided there just wasn't a lot of money. They weren't going to spend a lot of money. So everybody had to go out and buy a gift on their own, and they couldn't spend more than what the family decided. Right? So it's time for them to unwrap the presents, and this one little boy gives this to his brother, and his brother opens it up, And the little boy says, I can't tell you how much that cost, but I bought it at the dollar store. Do you think for a moment that God is satisfied with us giving him less than most of our best? And that's different for people. Okay, it's not the same thing for all people. But what is the best that I can give him? It's the heart that he wants from us first. See, I can know the Christmas story and not know the baby that was born. I can understand all these things that happen here. We can read them time after time after time. And I think it loses its glitter to us sometimes. I think it loses its shine to us because it's so commonplace to us. We've read this so many times before. And what a shame when God's people don't have the reaction that these men had that came all this way. So what does Jesus want for his birthday? Pardon me? Our hearts. The best that we have to offer. All that we have to offer. You know what that's called? Becoming a Christian. We misunderstand that so many times. That I am coming to Jesus because of who he is. That I am surrendering myself to him. Will we give him our allegiance and submission because he is? Is that what we're going to give him for Christmas? Will we give him my worship and praise and adoration as God? Are we going to give that to him for Christmas? We'll give him all that we have because he is the one who paid the price for our redemption. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. What will you give him this Christmas that you have withheld from him before? You know, I had the pleasure and the privilege in high school, especially my senior year in high school, that I was one of the starting five of a very, very good basketball team. Very good basketball team. I won't go into all that. We were 26-3 that senior year. We won every conference and every tournament that we were in. And the only reason I'm telling you this is because I can look back 46 years later and I can remember those times I really didn't give it my best effort. Yeah, we played. We might have won, but never, I didn't give everything that I could have. And I pray that in our life, we're not going to end up at some point in our life and say, well, I believed in Jesus, but I didn't really give him my best effort. I didn't really give him the best shot that I had at worshiping him and serving him. So what are you going to give to Jesus for his birthday this year? Our hymn of invitation this morning is going to be, "O come, all you faithful." Whatever decision you need to make it here at some time, that you're going to give to Jesus that which you have refused to give him all these years before, that we can surrender to him as King, Priest, and Sacrifice. Let's stand together as we sing.